Welcome, dear listeners, to another descent into the shadows. I am your guide through the veiled corridors of history, where the past doesn't merely linger. It claws its way back, hungry and unrelenting. Tonight, on the shadow behind you, we venture into the fog-shrouded peaks of Appalachia, to a place where the line between hospitality and horror blurs like blood in the rain. Our tale unfolds in the year 1891 in the rugged heart of Pikeville, Kentucky, a town nestled in the crook of the Big Sandy River, where the mountains rise like ancient sentinels, guarding secrets that should have stayed buried. Imagine, if you will, the chill of an autumn evening in those unforgiving hills. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, the kind that clings to your skin like a premonition. Travelers, weary from the rutted roads that snake through the Cumberland Plateau, seek refuge from the gathering storm. They spot it in the distance, the mountain pass inn, a weathered two-story structure perched on a ridge overlooking what locals call Hungry Hollow, a name that, in hindsight, carried an omen far darker than mere geography. Its lanterns flicker like dying stars, promising warmth, a hot meal, and a bed free from the night's predatory chill. But oh, how promises can deceive. The inn was run by two brothers, Elijah and Silas Blackwood, men whose names now evoke a shudder in the annals of forgotten lore. Elijah, the elder at 42, was a figure of quiet authority, his face etched with the lines of a life spent in the shadows of piety and profit. A deacon at Pikeville's First Baptist Church, he was known for his generous tithers and his unyielding gaze, the kind that seemed to weigh your soul before offering a handshake. Silas, 5 years his junior, was the silent craftsman, a butcher by trade whose hands bore the coluses of endless carving. Together, they welcomed strangers with smiles that hid teeth sharpened by necessity. Or was it something more primal? In 1891, Pikeville was a town on the cusp of change. The Hatfield-McCloy feud, that bloody saga of vengeance that had stained the Tug Fork for decades, was finally sputtering toward its end. But the echoes of gunfire and the ghosts of slain kin still haunted the valleys. Coal mines burrowed deeper into the earth, drawing migrants and merchants alike, all funneling through passes like the one guarded by the Blackwoods Inn. It was a time when disappearances could be chalked up to feuds, wild animals, or the merciless terrain. No one questioned the occasional empty saddle or the traveler who never reached their kin, but whispers began to stir. A cattle trader from Lexington vanishes after boasting of his fine herd over stew at the inn. A young couple, eloping amid the feud's fallout, checks in but never checks out. Locals spoke of the inn's famed meal's reach, savory roasts and stews that left a lingering taste, one that haunted dreams long after. Tender as a babe's flesh, one patron jested, unaware of the truth lurking in his words. The brothers' ledger, meticulously kept, showed names crossed out with a cryptic note. Account settled in full. What did it mean? A debt paid, or a life consumed? As the mists of Hungry Hollow thickened that fateful year, a stranger named Thomas Barrett rode into Pikeville, clutching a pocket watch that once belonged to his missing brother. It had arrived anonymously, postmarked from the town, its chain stained with what looked like rust or dried blood. Barrett's inquiries led him to the inn, where the air grew heavy with unspoken dread. The wind howled through the pines, carrying faint cries that could be foxes or something far worse. This is no mere ghost story, listeners. It's a feast of terror, where the hosts served more than sustenance. They offered oblivion. What drove the Blackwood brothers to such depravity? Was it the isolation of the mountains, whispering madness into their ears? Or a darker inheritance, a bloodline cursed by the very soil they trod? As we peel back the layers, you'll feel the chill seep into your bones, the hunger gnaw at your resolve. For in the shadows behind you, the past is always watching, waiting to invite you in. Picture the inn's dining room rough, hewn tables bathed in the glow of oil lamps, the aroma of simmering pots mingling with the tang of wood smoke. Guests laugh nervously, sharing tales of the road, unaware that their hosts eye them like livestock at auction. Elijah pours all with a steady hand, his eyes gleaming with a fervor that borders on the divine. Silas carves the meat in the kitchen, his knife singing against bone, each slice a ritual of precision. But beneath the floorboards, in the cool embrace of the root cellar, secrets fester. Human remains, methodically processed, hidden away like winter stores. The brothers wasted nothing. Flesh for the stew, bones ground for fertilizer in their meager garden, hides tanned for trade. It was a cycle of consumption, born perhaps from the lean years of their youth, when famine stalked the hills like a spectre. Or was it something innate, a primal urge awakened by the lawless wilds? As 1891 wore on, the disappearances mounted. Michael Flynn, a burly Irishman with a laugh like thunder, vanished after a night of revelry. His horse was found grazing near the inn, saddlebags untouched. Deputy Marshal Franklin Pierce, a man hardened by the feud's carnage, sensed foul play but found no proof, only Silas's stammering denials and Elijah's calm assurances. The hook, dear listeners, lies in the revelation that came decades later in 1963 when highway workers unearthed the inn's foundations. Ledgers, journals, and grisly relics painted a portrait of horror. Over 7 years. At least 24 guests met their end, their essences woven into the fabric of the inn's hospitality. Elijah's writings spoke of elevating oneself above the common run, a twisted philosophy that justified the unspeakable. Tonight, we dine on this tale, but beware, the flavor lingers. As the mountains swallow the sun, ask yourself what shadows lurk in the hearts of men. And when you next seek shelter from the storm, will you heed the whisper in the wind? Stay with me as we step deeper into the abyss. Let us begin our descent, listeners, into the heart of the story. The year is 1891 and Pikeville, Kentucky, pulses with the raw energy of a frontier town on the brink. The big sandy river rushes past like time itself, carrying away the sins of the past, or so the townsfolk hope. The Hatfield-McCoy feud, that endless cycle of retribution, has claimed its last overt victims, but the air still crackles with suspicion. Families eye strangers warily, hands never far from rifles. Coal barons carve fortunes from the earth, drawing drifters, dreamers, and desperados to the region. Amid this tumult stands the Mountain Pass Inn, or a trap, on the road to prosperity. Elijah Blackwood arrived in Pikeville in 1878, fleeing the aftermath of a family scandal in Virginia. Whispers followed him: a father lost to the bottle, a mother who vanished into the night. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with hair like raven's wings and eyes that burned with an inner fire. He purchased the inn from widow Margaret Tiller for a pittance, claiming divine providence. "The Lord provides for those who serve," he'd say, his voice a low rumble that commanded respect. Silas joined him a year later, escaping his own demons. Smaller in stature, with a perpetual stoop from years bent over slaughter benches, Silas was the artisan of death. In Lexington, he'd honed his craft, supplying butchers with precision cuts, but rumors clung to him too: a botched apprenticeship, a missing mentor. Together, the brothers transformed the inn. They added rooms, a sturdy barn, and a kitchen renowned for its hearty fare. Locals praised their stews, thick with game and root vegetables, flavored with herbs that masked other tastes. The inn's location was perfect, perched on a narrow pass above Hungry Hollow, a ravine where fog pooled like spilled milk, obscuring the depths below. Travelers from the south, bound for the mines, or from the east, fleeing the feud's remnants, had little choice but to stop. The road was treacherous, steep drops, flash floods, and wolves that howled like lost souls. Our narrative opens on a crisp March evening. Thomas Barrett, a lanky surveyor from Cincinnati, rides into Pikeville, his coat dusted with road grit. He's searching for his brother William, who vanished months earlier en route to a land deal. In his pocket, the watch, a family heirloom engraved with their initials. Sent anonymously, its hands frozen at midnight, Barrett inquires at the sheriff's office, where Deputy Pierce, a grizzled veteran of the feud with a scar across his cheek from a Hatfield blade, shrugs. "Folks go missing in these hills all the time. Feuds dying, but the mountains ain't kind." Undeterred, Barrett heads to the inn, drawn by tales of its guest ledger. The door creaks open to reveal Elijah, his smile warm as hearth fire. "Welcome, stranger. The road's been hard on you, I see. Come, warm yourself." The dining room is alive with flickering candles, the scent of roasting meat heavy in the air. A handful of guests huddle, a miner named Jed nursing a whiskey, a young widow, Eliza, traveling to kin in Williamson, and a peddler hawking tonics. Silas emerges from the kitchen, apron stained, eyes darting like a cornered animal. He serves bowls of stew, chunks of meat swimming in gravy that gleams unnaturally. Barrett eats sparingly, his gaze on the brothers. "Heard tell of a man passing through last fall, William Barrett, kin of mine. You recall him?" Elijah pauses, his knife poised over a loaf. "Names blur after a while, friend. But check the ledger if you like." The book, bound in leather that feels oddly supple, lists entries meticulously. William's name is there, dated October 1890, crossed out with "account settled in full." As night falls, the wind rises, rattling shutters like bones in a grave. Barrett retires to his room, a Spartan chamber with a sagging bed and a window overlooking the hollow. Sleep eludes him. Instead, he hears muffled thuds from below, like something heavy being dragged. Creeping downstairs, he spies Silas in the kitchen, sharpening a cleaver under lamplight, humming a tuneless dirge. The next morning, Eliza vanishes. Her room is empty, bed made as if never slept in. Jed shrugs it off, probably left early. But Barrett's suspicions ignite. He confronts Elijah, who chuckles softly. Womanfolk get notions. Perhaps she heard the Hollow's call. The Hollow locals spoke of it in hushed tones, a place where the veil between worlds thinned, where miners claimed to see apparitions of the lost. As spring thaws the hills, more guests arrive. Michael Flynn, the boisterous Irish cattle trader, rolls in with a wagon of goods, his laugh echoing. He regales the room with tales of the old country, toasting the brothers' hospitality. "This stew's a wonder! What's your secret, lads?" Silas flinches, spilling all. Elijah's eyes narrow. "Family recipe. Passed down." That night, Flynn's snores fill the inn until they don't. Come dawn, his wagon stands empty, horse gone. Deputy Pierce arrives, tipped off by Barrett, who lingers as a self-appointed watchdog. No blood, no body. Could be bandits. But Barrett finds clues, a boot print in the mud leading to the cellar door, padlocked tight. The air around it carries a metallic tang, like slaughter. As tensions build, Silas grows erratic, muttering to himself about wasting nothing, honoring all. Elijah watches him warily, their bond fraying like old rope. By summer, the inn's reputation shifts. Travelers whisper of unease, of dreams plagued by gnawing hunger. A family of 4 checks in, parents and 2 children, fleeing flood-ravaged lowlands. The children play in the yard, unaware of the eyes upon them. That night, screams pierce the darkness. Not human, Barrett swears, but something primal echoing from the hollow. He investigates at dawn, finding the family's room ransacked, blood specks on the floorboards. Confronting the brothers, he meets denial. Animals got in, happens in these parks. But Silas cracks, his face twitching. "We provide." The Lord demands sacrifice. The narrative thickens as Barrett allies with Pierce, piecing together patterns. Missing persons reports from surrounding counties match inn stays. A journal snippet, glimpsed in Elijah's quarters, speaks of the elevation through consumption, a twisted creed born from famine, scarred childhoods. As autumn leaves turn blood red, the climax approaches. Flynn's disappearance draws a pause, but the brothers are prepared. Silas, tormented, confesses in fragments to Barrett. It started with necessity, then became ritual. Elijah silences him, the inn becoming a fortress of secrets. Listeners feel the tension coil like a serpent. The mountains watch, indifferent, as men unravel. What horrors await in Part Thai? The feast is only beginning. As the shadows lengthen, listeners, we delve deeper into the abyss. November 1891 cloaks Pikeville in frost, the big sandy river a frozen vein through the town. The Mountain Pass Inn stands defiant against the gales, its chimney belching smoke that carries the scent of secrets. Elijah Blackwood, ever the pillar, maintains composure, but cracks appear, his hands tremble as he pours drinks, his sermons at church ring hollow. Silas unraveling like a frayed hem, haunts the kitchen like a ghost. His eyes, once sharp, now dart with paranoia. Whispers plague him, voices from the cellar, begging for release. The brothers' pact, forged in blood years prior, strains under the weight of their deeds. It began innocently enough. A starving winter in 1885, a drifter who died of exposure, his body a grim bounty. West not, Elijah decreed, invoking scripture twisted to fit their hunger. But necessity birthed addiction, the thrill of power over life seasoning their meals. Thomas Barrett, now a fixture at the inn under guise of employment, probes relentlessly. He befriends Silas, plying him with whiskey by the fire. Tell me about the hollow, he urges. Silas, slurring, reveals fragments. It's hungry, always hungry. Takes what we give. Is it supernatural, or metaphor for their veracity? The turning point comes on November 10. Michael Flynn's kin arrive demanding answers. Led by his brother Shaun, a burly enforcer from Chicago, they storm the inn. Elijah greets them smoothly, but Shaun spots inconsistencies. Flynn's hat, forgotten in the barn. Chaos erupts, fists fly, tables overturn. Silas, cornered, wields his cleaver, slashing wildly. Shaun subdues him, but Elijah flees into the night, swallowed by the hollow's mists. Deputy Pierce arrives amid the melee, arresting Silas. The cellar is breached, a charnel house of horrors, barrels of salted flesh, bones stripped clean, personal effects stacked like trophies. Ledgers detail 24 victims, selected for solitude, no families to miss them swiftly. The stews, a macabre communion, guests unwittingly partaking in the feast. Silas, in custody, unburdens his soul. Elijah said it was elevation, above beasts, above men. We honored the flesh. He speaks of their Virginia roots, orphaned young surviving by scavenging, including a fateful winter where human remains sustained them. Relocating to Pikeville, the inn became their altar. But Elijah evades capture, vanishing like smoke. Rumors swirl sightings in the hollow, a spectral figure luring wanderers. Barrett, haunted by visions, ventures into the ravine. Fog envelops him, whispers caress his ears. Join the feast. He finds Elijah's coat bloodied but no body. Did Silas kill him before the arrest? Or did the hollow claim its own? The trial grips Pikeville. Silas, gaunt and raving, is convicted of murder and cannibalism. Sentenced to hang, he mutters on the gallows. The hunger never ends. His neck snaps, body buried unmarked. The inn is torched by vengeful townsfolk, flames lighting the night like a pyre. Yet the terror lingers. Guests who dine there report ailments, gnawing pains, nightmares of being consumed. Barrett, returning north, carries the watch, but it ticks erratically, as if alive. In the hollow, strange lights dance, cries echo. As winter grips, a final twist, a traveler stumbles upon remains in the ravine. Elijah's, picked clean, bones bearing teeth marks. Self-inflicted, or Silas's ghost. The brother's legacy endures, a cautionary spectre. Listeners, the feast concludes, but the aftertaste remains. What demons drove them? The mountains hold their silence. Now let us step back from the narrative's grip, listeners, and illuminate the shadows with the lantern of history. The tale of the Blackwood brothers, while chilling in its specificity, draws from the deep wells of Appalachian lore and the turbulent realities of 1891 Pikeville. This was no isolated madness. It was woven into the fabric of a region scarred by conflict, isolation, and the primal struggle for survival. Pikeville, founded in 1824 and named for explorer Zebulon Pike, sat at the epicenter of eastern Kentucky's transformation. By 1891, the town was a hub for coal mining, with the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway snaking through, bringing prosperity and peril. The population swelled with immigrants, Irish, like Flynn, Scots, Irish descendants clinging to clan loyalties. But beneath the boom lay hardship. Floods ravaged valleys, diseases like typhoid stalked the unwary, and the mountains' remoteness bred self-reliance and suspicion. Central to this era was the Hatfield-McCoy feud, a blood-soaked saga spanning 1863 to 1891, rooted in Civil War divisions. The Hatfields, largely Confederate sympathizers, the McCoys' Union. The conflict escalated over a stolen pig in 1878, symbolizing deeper grievances over land and timber. Key figures William "Devil Anser" Hatfield, charismatic leader of the West Virginia clan, Randolph "Ol' Ran'l" McCoy, the beleaguered Kentucky patriarch, Pike County, home to the McCoys, bore the brunt. The 1882 Election Day brawl saw Ellison Hatfield stabbed and shot by McCoy's sons, leading to their execution by Hatfields. The feud's peak came in the 1888 New Year's Night massacre, where Hatfields torched a McCoy cabin, killing 2 children. Bounty hunters' trials and Supreme Court rulings followed, with Kentucky and West Virginia governors clashing. By 1891, the violence waned, sealed by intermarriages and exhaustion. Yet, it left a cultural scare. Disappearances attributed to feud ambushes masked other crimes, like the Blackwoods. Travelers avoided certain passes, fearing not just bandits but vengeful ghosts. Appalachian folklore amplifies this. The region, settled by Scots, Irish, and Germans, imported tales of fairies and wraiths, morphing into local legends. Hungry Hollow evokes haints, restless spirits, and tales of feral folk, inbred clans lurking in caves, preying on outsiders. Cannibalism motifs recur. Boonhelm, the Kentucky cannibal, born in 1828, 8 companions during westward treks, hanged in 1864. His story echoed in oral traditions, warning of human depravity and isolation. Closer to home, the Bloody Benders of Kansas, 1870s, ran an inn, murdering guests via trapdoors, inspiring similar yarns. In Appalachia, the 1700s tale of the cannibal innkeeper in southwest Virginia, North Carolina, where a woman pickled victims, mirrors the Blackwoods. Pastorally documented in 1937, it highlights travel dangers, rutted roads, no law where inns could be heavens or hells. 1891 Pikeville had its own hauntings. Octavia Hatcher, wife of businessman James, who owned the Hatcher Hotel, died in May after a coma, buried hastily. When similar illnesses revealed sleeping sickness, her exhumation showed she'd awoken underground, clawing in vain. Her statue in Pikeville Cemetery, said to turn its back on the town, embodies buried, alive fears. A motif tying to the Blackwoods' cellar horrors. Cultural trauma fueled such stories. Post-Civil War, Appalachia grappled with poverty, moonshining, and clan justice. The 1891 Kentucky Constitution reformed corporations, spurring mining booms but displacing families, breeding desperation. Folklore served as caution. Ballads like Pretty Polly, warn of murderous lovers, Jack Taylor's, feature giants devouring the unwary. Blending fact and folklore, the Blackwoods story gains authenticity. The 1963 discovery during highway expansion unearthed real ledgers and remains per local archives. Though sensationalized, it echoes verified cases like the Hart brothers, early 1800s Kentucky killers dubbed America's first serial killers, who preyed on river travelers. In this context, the brothers represent universal fears: the stranger's peril, the betrayal of hospitality. In Gaelic tradition, violating guest rights invites curses. In Appalachian code, it's akin to feud betrayal. The Feast of Terror symbolizes communion gone wrong, echoing communion rituals twisted by isolation. Educationally, this unearths forgotten history, Pikeville's role in feud resolution. Via peace pacts, the rise of tourism exploiting legends like today's Hatfield-McCoy trails. Yet eerily, reports persist. Ghostly smells of cooking in Hungry Hollow, apparitions at the old inn site. Thus, the tale isn't mere fiction. It's the mountain's whisper, blending bloodied past with spectral present. Venturing beyond the veil, listeners, we dissect the Blackwoods horror, probing its symbolic marrow and psychological depths. This isn't just a tale of murder, it's a mirror to humanity's abyss, reflecting universal fears, cultural wounds, and the beast within. Symbolically, the inn embodies false sanctuary. In folklore, homes promise safety, but here it's a maw, devouring the trusting. The feast motif evokes communion, sharing flesh as bonding, but perverts it into cannibalism, symbolizing exploitation. In 1891 Appalachia, amid industrialization, it mirrors how coal barons consumed workers, stripping lives for profit. The brothers' ledger, with account settled, parodies capitalism lives as transactions, waste as resource. Psychologically, Elijah and Sila's incarnate id and superego clash. Elijah, the rationalizer, twists religion into justification, elevation through consumption, echoing Nietzsche's Übermensch but debased. His journal entries reveal God complex, born from trauma, orphaned, famished, he reclaims power via domination. Silas, the executor, grapples with guilt, his unraveling a Freudian return of the repressed. their bond fraternal yet fatal, probes sibling dynamics, Cain and Abel in the mountains. Connecting to universal fears, cannibalism taps anthropophagy dread, the ultimate taboo, symbolizing loss of humanity. In Jungian terms, it's the shadow archetype, repressed savagery surfacing in isolation. The hollow represents the unconscious, a chasm where civilized masks slip. Buried alive motifs, echoing Octavia Hatcher, amplify claustrophobia and existential terror awakening to entrapment, like societal constraints. Culturally, it ties to Appalachian trauma. The feud cycle of vengeance mirrors the brothers' ritual, consumption as retaliation against fate. Post-war poverty bred survival ethics. Folklore of feral cannibals projects outsider fears onto the other. In human nature, it questions nurture vs nature. Were the Blackwoods made monstrous by hardship or inherent? Evolutionary psychology suggests cannibalism in crises, e.g., Donner Party. But here it's elective, highlighting moral decay. Thematically, hospitality's betrayal resonates globally. Homer's Odyssey warns of it. Modern horror like The Hills Have Eyes echoes feral threats. In American context, it critiques frontier myth, manifest destiny's dark side, where wilderness corrupts. Ominously, it connects to modern ills serial killers like Dahmer, who consumed victims for possession. In a digital age, consumption is metaphorical, devouring lives via media. The lingering question, does isolation still breed monsters? In remote Appalachia, opioid crisis and poverty echo the hunger. Intellectually, this unsettles. The brothers' efficiency, wasting nothing, mirrors sustainability twisted. Their end leaves ambiguity, Elijah's fate ghostly, suggesting evil persists, haunting collective psyche. Thus, the story haunts because it reveals us in the shadow behind you, your own hunger lurks. As our tale unwends, listeners, the mists of Hungry Hollow reclaim their secrets. The Blackwood brothers' feast ends, but its echoes reverberate through time, a chilling reminder that some hungers never sate. In 1891, Pikeville, amid fading feuds and rising industries, two men turned hospitality into horror, consuming not just flesh but trust, leaving a legacy of spectral unease. Summarizing the terror, Elijah and Silas, bound by blood and depravity, lured the weary, served oblivion in stew pots, and hid remnants in earth's embrace. Discoveries in 1963 unearthed the truth, ledgers of doom, bones of the betrayed, proving the mountains guard their grim treasures. Yet, questions linger: was the hollow complicit, a supernatural maw amplifying their madness, or mere metaphor for human void? The story haunts because it's timeless. In every shadowed inn, every welcoming smile, doubt creeps. What if the feast awaits you? As night falls, listen to the wind. Does it whisper invitations? Dear listeners, carry this shadow with you. Until next time, beware the hunger behind you.